Welcome to CJ's Chat Box. We are continuing in our musician series, so we are very privileged today to have with us Jeff Sinclair.
Hello, CJ. Hello, folks.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you.
Well, thank you. Wonderful
I
to be
know that I've seen you here in so many different venues, if you will. I've seen you when Dutch used to have his little practice sessions at
right.
in Clubhouse 3.
You've done my makeup before?
I have done your makeup. It was
makeup.
so fun. It's always fun, but it's nice to be up close and personal, which you are when you're doing makeup, for
Yes,
sure.
very much.
So in getting to know you a little bit better, I did give you a call and found out that you are pretty much a native boy because you were quite young when you moved to California.
Yeah, I was born in 1956, which makes me one of the younger folks here at
Shush.
the Woods.
Don't be
And-
rubbing that in.
Out of Flint, Michigan. And my parents moved here probably when I was like 2, so I don't
Yeah.
remember. So pretty much been a California boy ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with the whole musician part of that, going to high school and so on, were you drawn to that? You said do you play instruments?
I do not. I'm just
Okay.
a vocalist. And it's interesting because all my life I wanted to be an actor or
Okay.
a performer of some
Yep.
sort. You know,
Yep.
when I was asked when I was like in my early teens, it was people would ask me, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I was like, "I want to be an actor because I could be so many different things in my life as being an actor." But I never pursued acting in high school. It wasn't the cool thing to do. You know, I was more of an athlete and never pursued music in high school either. This was all something
Really?
that came on later on in life. In fact, after I moved to the Woods.
Really?
Yeah,
You know what I find interesting is that
which is amazing considering how good I am at
yes, exactly. That I was going to add. But what I find interesting when you would answer people that you wanted to be an actor, and yet you never dabbled in that in high school, which everybody has senior plays that are pathetic, but at least you have you get your feet wet to find out what it's
it.
like.
Right, right.
Um, um, when you talked about wanting to do other people, I think that was the reason.
Do other people?
Become other
Be
people.
other people. Okay.
Is that when I moved from Minnesota, my dream always was to move to California, and it was pretty much there's Hollywood, and the idea of being an actor was also something that I thought of.
Oh wow.
But my reasoning that I found out later was I wanted to be somebody other than myself,
Uh-huh.
and so that I delved into
That
a
might
lot
have
of
been my
therapy there.
motivation as well.
Well, and
I had
there's
kind of
where
a rough childhood, so
yeah, well,
I
same
can
here.
see that happening.
So when you have that, then you want to be somewhere else and be someone else. And as time goes on, you realize you can still act with it and still maintain yourself. So you don't need to totally lose yourself. But then when you got to the vocal part of it, and so you didn't really do any of that before you got to the Woods either?
Zero acting. Well, I started acting about a year before I got to the Woods. I did a lot of student films, some commercials, some voiceover work, and then qualified for my SAG card. Never joined the SAG union because of the cost involved, and I was also advised by a acting teacher here, Beverly Aerosmith. Do you remember Beverly?
No, I know.
Okay, anyway, she passed away a couple of years back. She was a SAG member, and she said that joining SAG would limit the amount of roles that you could have because there's so much more in non-union, and it's $3,000. So
Right.
Why do it? Which I'm really glad I didn't
Yeah.
at the time. But as far as vocally singing in bands and stuff, that all started with Dutch Visser, who started the monthly jams here. In fact,
Over
right
there,
here.
Clubhouse 3.
Yeah.
So when I did see you there, you were a novice. You were just getting up
Completely.
there.
I consider myself still a novice.
Okay.
I'm still trying to
Learning
master the
as you go.
craft of singing. I think it's something that you have to continually.
So you're not
work on.
appreciating all those things I'm sending you about you ought to do this.
No, I love that. I love that. You're sending me songs that would be fantastic to do, and hope to do them someday soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still, in fact, take vocal lessons. Obviously, before COVID,
Right.
interfered with all of that, because I feel like you can never master your craft. I think you always have to keep improving.
Well, and from what I'm gathering, because you have to really master the breathing.
Breathing's so
And
important.
of course the throat. So when you
Exactly.
talk to somebody like Bonnie McKibben, who's been doing that all her life,
Hmm.
she understands that, and therefore she knows what to do, and it comes natural.
Right.
But for someone that is not, that is learning to do that,
No,
how you have
absolutely.
to do that.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting is because you were married and you
Was.
have children
Yes.
and you have grandchildren.
I have 6 grandchildren.
So again, during that time, what did you? Well, I know you did door-to-door salesman at one time.
Yeah, it's funny. At 17, I applied for a job as a Kirby vacuum cleaner salesperson,
Yay.
which was very, very educational and learning
Mhm.
how to read people
Yep.
and interact with people.
Yep.
So that was very, very helpful. I've been in sales my entire life.
Yeah. That I don't
I've
find.
sold everything except drugs.
Yeah. I'm
So,
glad to hear that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I'm
Um,
not surprised
yeah,
because
yeah,
that is a background. But somebody that is pursuing or would have liked to pursue acting,
right.
the fact that you were a salesman, you have to be able to sell yourself or sell whatever you're selling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of improv involved in
Oh,
sales too.
exactly.
You've got to really adapt to the situation,
Yeah.
which I love even today. Today, I buy cars for an auto broker.
Okay.
That's my full-time gig, and I do it, well, not only for the money, but it's just so much fun. So I travel around the country,
Yeah.
fly there, negotiate a deal on a car, and then drive it back. So you get a
Mhm.
chance to see the country. One of the parts
Mhm.
I really like about it is we buy from private parties, and so every time I go, it's a brand new story. I'm somebody's uncle, I'm somebody's brother,
Oh.
usually somebody's dad, and I'm buying it for my son or daughter or whatever. So
You are an actor,
I
truly.
have to adapt to the situation, and I have to
Oh.
be on my toes and constantly improv the
Little
situation,
did
which
you
is
know.
fun. It's so much fun.
Little did you know if they were giving away Academy Awards for being the best auto salesperson
There you go.
and coming up with all these backgrounds,
Exactly.
you'd be the winner.
Exactly. Auto buyer, not a salesperson.
Oh, that's right.
I think
Auto
auto
buyer.
salespeople are scumbags of the
Yeah.
planet. So
Yeah. Well, we know there's levels
Yeah.
as to scumbags and all that.
Exactly.
And car salesmen are usually down there.
Right.
But how you even got into auto buying and realizing, I think that is what's important as we get older, is to realize the gifts we've been given or born with
Right.
and utilize
Or
them.
developed, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as you get older, you have to survive and you have to improvise, and therefore you develop skills that you didn't know that were in there.
Yeah.
And then find out, hey, I can do this. You didn't actually sing much in school, but did you have certain artists that you sang, when you were in the car? Or...
Absolutely. I can remember high school, obviously the Beatles, the Stones, the Doors, the typical, the Led Zeppelins.
Yeah.
But in high school, Three Dog Night was my favorite band.
Ah.
And because I think they had like a 3-part harmony and they're just amazing. So
Mm.
I've always wanted to perform. Originally thought it was acting where I'd end up, but
Mm.
singing was something that I didn't know that I had the ability to do.
Mhm.
And again, I mentioned that I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
But it's something I've always thought in the back of my mind it would be fun. I think just I'm born to be a performer.
Yeah.
To be on stage doing something,
Yeah.
whether it's singing or acting. I
Mhm.
tried comedy one time.
Yeah.
The hardest thing in the world to do.
Oh, I
When
agree.
someone introduces you as a comedian,
Oh.
all of a sudden you're like, oh goodness, I got to be funny.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm funny in a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
After a couple of beers or whatever, like stuff that comes out of my mouth, my girlfriend Carla can't even believe.
Yeah.
To this day, we've been together for 4 years. And she asks me, "Do you know what's coming out of your mouth next?" I said, "Absolutely not. It's
Yeah.
just,
No.
it just comes out." But singing is something that I've always wanted to do. I always thought, I'd be decent at it, and
So those are the bands that you listened to in growing up and sang
Exactly.
along in the car,
exactly
wherever.
Crosby, Stills, Nash. I mean, just all the classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing how what you grow up with, how they are the ones that you always go back to.
Absolutely.
That you
Yeah.
think about that. When you mentioned that you just like being in front of people, that if and I don't know if I'm not a big concert goer, but I have been to a few concerts.
Right.
And when that's when I really noticed the difference when I went to hear Johnny Mathis. Johnny Mathis is a singer. He's
What an incredible
yeah,
singer.
and he doesn't need to be an entertainer, and he's not.
Right.
He will just stand there and sing. He's
Right.
not going to work the crowd. Engelbert Humperdinck, entertainer. He's running
Right.
and talking and doing. So when you said you like being in front of people, which again makes it broader than just a singer,
Right.
because again you can work the crowd, you know how to interact with them, and that's a gift as well.
Yeah, that's something that I've been emphasizing to other bands, here in
Mm-hmm.
the village. Most of the bands here, and they're all really good
Mm-hmm.
bands, but most of them just stand there and sing, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you have to, because 70% of the crowd
Yes.
is watching the band, not dancing.
Right.
There's 30 to 40% of the people that dance,
Mm-hmm.
but then 60 or 70% are just sitting there
Mm-hmm.
enjoying the music and watching the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you've got to entertain those
Yes.
people. You've got to do
Yeah.
something.
Well,
Move around, dance around, do something.
it's like who's your front man?
Right,
And some bands don't even think about the fact, oh, what do you mean by that?
right,
And why is that important?
right.
Who's going to announce anything, and who's going to, fill in the blanks between numbers? That a front man that feels very comfortable in front of a crowd is essential.
Yeah. Or maybe just even dance around a little bit. Give them something to
Yes.
look at, which would make your band more memorable
Yeah.
than the other bands that just stand there. Even if the guitar players, and I've gotten Lyle and Mark from Rock of Ages now to do some dueling guitar stuff
Oh,
with
how
each other,
fun.
because that's kind of fun to see.
Yes.
That's stuff
Yes.
that the real rock and rollers do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I remember, speaking of that, I saw something on PBS recently on Rolling Stones,
Hmm.
and uh, Keith Richards,
You're right.
and the other guy, which I don't know his name, but I know his face, and they literally, Mickey's running all over the place
Right.
singing, and they don't care, but because they're dueling.
They're doing their thing.
Oh my gosh, and they're really going
Which
at it.
makes the whole show interesting.
Oh, it's a wild. It's
Right.
so alive.
Right.
And I don't know why we don't do more of that here. I don't know if it's because they're a little intimidated or a little shy.
I don't know either. I've encouraged every person and every band here, move around, entertain a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of one of the bands, is a very, very good band, the Retrofits here.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is the lead singer.
Yeah.
He's the front man, if you will. However, he's trapped behind drums.
Yeah.
And I suggested, why don't you move the drum set to the front of the stage?
Yeah.
Since now we can identify and who's singing the songs,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done that, and I think the show's so much better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it doesn't take a lot sometimes, but sometimes you need input from the audience
Mm-hmm.
to say, have you ever thought about trying this? Sometimes they're receptive,
Yeah,
and sometimes the bands are saying, you know what, we're fine the way we are.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, I was just trying to help. I'm not trying to take
Well,
over here.
which goes to show I've always wanted to be an actor, but probably more of a director.
There's more power in being a director. You do know
do
that.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you ever written?
I've actually written a book. It's unpublished, and I've actually written a lot of poetry, mostly about
Wonderful.
Carla. So I have a book that I presented her on her last birthday,
Oh.
or Christmas. I can't remember which one it was, but I just took all of my writings that I had
Mm-hmm.
sent her through text or whatever, and compiled it, printed it up, and compiled it in a book. So yeah, I love writing as well.
Can you put it to music?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I've always felt like I could write music because I can
Yeah.
rhyme really well.
Yeah.
Not music. I'm sorry, lyrics.
Yes.
I can't
No, I
write a
couldn't do
note of
music.
music.
Right.
But,
And because of the fact that you're writing to Carla and it's coming from your heart,
Right.
those are the things. What I get a kick out of is men are not really good at expressing their emotions verbally, but listen to when they sing a country song.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, it's like their heart is laying right there on a platter.
Exactly.
So you may be able to transmit all that into,
I
if
would
somebody knows
love-
how to write
I would love to find a guitarist that would like to compose some music
yeah.
and put lyrics to their sound.
Yeah.
They'd be
Well,
great.
that's the one thing that isn't really a lot of here in the village is originals,
Mhm.
and that may be how it starts.
Right. Maybe.
Is using your poetry.
Yeah, and some people feel like Carla, for example. I'll ask her, "Do you know this song? Do you know what it means?" I have no idea.
Yeah.
Some people just don't pay attention to the lyrics.
Yeah.
They just like the music.
Yeah.
I feel like the lyrics are very important. So,
Right.
when I learn a song, it's important that I know the
Mhm.
lyrics.
Well, and I think this is kind of interesting. Maybe I'm generalizing this. in the fact that for me it's always the beat first
Mm.
and then the words later.
Gotcha.
But for you, it's words first and then.
Well, I think the words tell the story, and I feel
Mhm.
like, you know, if you're a good singer, you're going to that the story of the song is going to come through you.
Mhm.
I really don't like to sing songs that I can't feel.
Yeah.
So if I can feel it,
Yeah.
that means I connect with the story of the
Mhm.
lyrics, and it usually comes out a lot better.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about connecting with the words is one thing, but also the connection that you're getting with the audience when you are having a good time up there.
Absolutely.
If the band is having a good time,
Absolutely.
you don't need to worry about the audience.
They're having a great
They're
time.
going to have a good time because
Absolutely.
they're watching you.
Right.
That connection with the audience by you and the other members of the band that are having a blast.
Right.
It's going to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I thank you again for coming. I
Oh.
thank you for being my guest,
Wow.
for revealing such deep secrets that you have about yourself.
I don't know how deep they are. But
No, but I really have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed meeting you outside of this as well,
Right.
and getting to know you even better on a different level, and I appreciate that.
And I as well.
So, well, thank you, dear.
All right.
Stop
It's been nice. Welcome to CJ's Chat Box. As you can tell, I have another guest that has been with me before, and I've done all I could do on him. But today, he doesn't know what I'm going to say.
So I'm going to try to say it for her before she gets to it. No, go ahead.
This is Craig Spradley, and when I interviewed him before, we talked about some of his multi-talented gifts that he has. He's a producer, a director, an entertainer, an actor, all the above. But today, since we're in the musician series, we're going to talk about his musical talents. And he has many. Just what are some of the instruments that you play, my dear?
Well, I played the clarinet briefly in middle school.
Oh, you did?
Yes. And I was the only kid that was able to play without looking at his fingers. Read the music.
Really?
And I remember getting a compliment from the teacher for that. Now I only played it for that 1 year, so.
And you got out of woodwinds or what?
Woodwinds. I like woodwinds.
So why aren't you not playing it now?
Well, there's only so many hours in a day, my dear.
Yeah,
you
well.
know. So.
You'd have to give up one of your other talents.
Yeah, because I play piano mostly. Right
Okay.
now I'm playing piano because I'm in a group
Yes.
called the Retrofits Plug.
Yes.
And,
yes, you
I
are.
play keyboards for them, and
Mhm.
so right now I'm concentrating on that. Still play guitar all the time.
Do you play electric, acoustic, or all the above? Or?
All the above.
Now, were you always able to did you do this since you were a mere child? Play these instruments?
Well, I was never a mere child. I was actually a child, and then I grew into a teenager, and then I became an adult. I was never really a mere anything, but yes, yeah.
So you started then.
Yeah.
Were you encouraged by your parents to
Well,
play all
my
these?
mother was a musician.
Okay.
She played piano, sang. She was a singer. She was a professional singer
Oh,
before
wow.
my father caught up with her and ruined her career. But,
Men can do that.
Yeah, well, everybody can do that. And so I
she
came by
encouraged you?
honestly. Yeah,
Well,
and
that's good.
and she made me take piano lessons, which I hated, of course.
Everybody hates the lessons
Yeah,
part.
I hated it, and I always got in trouble because the teacher. I never wanted to play what the teacher wanted me to play. I always wanted to go off on a
Mhm.
tangent or
That's
some riff
still
of my
part
own.
of who you are, you know.
Yeah, I know.
You like going off on a tangent.
Yeah, well, there's so much to learn out in tangential land.
That is
You know,
true.
most people
It's-
don't even venture into tangents.
Because it takes somebody very courageous as you are.
Oh, I don't know about that. But
It's
it
Craig
probably takes whiskey
courageous.
to do that more than anything else.
Well, that always helps. A little Jameson or
So yes,
that
yeah.
helps.
So it just came naturally to me. That's
Yeah,
all. And so
yeah.
I'm grateful to that because
Yeah.
people ask me, well, where'd that come? I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
I mean,
Your DNA.
it's my DNA, and it
Yeah.
comes through. My grandmother was in show business.
Really?
My mother's mother was a dancer.
Yeah.
And we have a couple pictures of her when she was like 19 in her little tutu, and this would have been like
Now that I would like to see.
1919, you know.
Do
And-
you
and
do
she was
any?
in the silent movies. She did some
Really?
acting in those out of Chicago.
You would be good in that. You could be a Charlie Chaplin so easily.
Not so easily anymore. Thank you. Thank you.
You could.
But and my grandmother's brothers were musicians. One was a vaudevillian guy, and one was the story is one of them played in Bob Hope's touring band. You know, when he went overseas. and
Of
stuff.
course.
So I've got I've got the bloodline for
You have
for it,
that.
so
So it isn't just the musical talent, you have that entertainment part, because you could do vaudeville very well,
remember
very easily.
I do remember playing the piano when I was going, one of my recitals, I guess it was my third recital, because I think I didn't do any after that. But I would have been about 9
Mm-hmm.
9 or 10, and I played the abridged version of a Franz Liszt piece,
Ah.
abridged for little kids with small hands,
Mm-hmm.
and it really went well. I remember looking out at the audience and thinking, this is pretty cool. And what happened was my father had a friend who would come over for supper. I think I told you this story already. He'd come over for supper and he'd look down at me. My father would have been 30 or 35, and his friend would look at me right before we'd eat, and he'd rub his hands together like that. And for some reason, when it came time for me to play that piece at my recital, I looked out at the audience and I did the same thing.
Oh.
Now, I didn't know any better. I was just a kid with instincts.
Yes.
But it seemed like the right thing. And so after that, the audience was crazy.
Yeah.
To see a little kid being,
Yes.
showing off like that, and then playing really well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I remember walking up the aisle and adults reaching out going, hey, that was great.
Oh.
So being a kid, and being validated by the adults was something that
in
stuck.
your blood.
Yeah, it stuck with me.
Got in your blood. So that's still.
And those kind of encouragements happened a lot. So that was nice.
Yeah. Well, and without that, you may have stopped at certain
I may have
points.
drifted off into God knows what.
Yes.
I was in college during the,
Oh,
the
that
60s.
you could have gone anywhere
Could
there.
have gone in all kind of bad directions.
Yeah, you could be living in a VW bus now.
I've done that.
Well, I don't even want to
I've
go
already been there.
Were you playing instruments then?
Yeah, I was.
Oh my
Put a
God!
little
Probably
hat
a
out
pick,
and strum a
piccolo.
ukulele and hope I can
Oh, my
make enough to go get a cheeseburger.
Jeez. So you have, but I like the part that you've stayed with because you enjoy it. I mean, it's not like you have to practice your keyboard or your piano or anything. It's that you like it. It's like you're doing something you enjoy.
Yes, and that makes it easy.
Yeah.
And it's easy. Well, it seems easy. It seems like it comes easy to me, but it takes a lot of playing.
Yes.
It takes a lot of playing. But I think I make it sound easier than it is, because oftentimes drunk girls will come up and go, I can play that. And I go, no, you can't. It sounds like you can, but
You're hanging out in the wrong places, Craig.
No, I'm hanging in the right places, but I'm seeing the
Just
wrong
getting
faces.
they're getting in your business. No, but recently I saw you when you were playing at Patty Station, and that was just you and the piano. And you do make it look easy because your fingers, and as Nick Jordan called you twinkle toes, I think you appreciated that.
Well, that's okay, because
But he meant
if I were a quadruped, they would be toes. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay.
But I mean, the way you played it at Patty's, it was just you just roll over the keys easily. It does. You make it look very easy, and then singing the way you do with that. But you also, in your singing, you've got this humor. That's why I call you an entertainer. You're natural.
I think it's more accurate than as much as anything else. But
yeah,
but
because
piano's the first thing I ever played.
Yes.
And then I picked up my tennis racket before I got a guitar, and held the tennis racket in front of the mirror until I got a guitar to actually play.
See, now I've heard of people that use a hairbrush for a mic.
Sure.
But I didn't know that they use
tennis
tennis
rackets
rackets
right,
for
yes,
guitars.
tennis racket is a very famous prepubescent guitar.
I've learned something new every day from you, Craig. I can't even thank you
My
enough.
pleasure.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
it has been a pleasure.
I always enjoy talking to you.
Well, because you're a funny man, and we kind
Careful.
you have a lot of. Well, I won't say that either. This could go in the toilet real fastly.
This could take a turn just like that. You just don't know. Can I walk off like I could? I don't believe the results. Terrible. I'm going. Goodbye. Can't take it.
You're not. You're not allowed to sit. No, it's that you have this. That's why I always see you as such an entertainer, and why and you would make the great front man because of the fact you can easily work the audience. Put a mic in front of you, you can sing. And again, I find it very, very difficult that you can't dance. You can't dance, huh?
Yeah, I can dance.
Well, then why aren't you doing like tap dances?
Well,
like
that's tap dancing on my bucket list for sure.
Ah,
like I said,
you could take
there's only
classes.
so many hours in the day, and there's only so many years left.
Well,
in my
no,
life.
but look what you could add to the show that you're doing. just stop and
Well,
play
you know, I
and then get
mentioned
up
it
and
to
do another
somebody. I
tap?
mentioned to a friend who has taken tap and has a portable floor
Yes.
that I was talking to about maybe taking a few lessons. All I want is a couple of time steps and
No, you've got to
That's it.
take Laura Fremont's class. She's teaching it.
really.
Oh, she's got 2 classes now. She just started in January, and they're
I need a
filling up.
beginner class, and I'm slow to learn.
Well, she's
Very
taking.
slow.
She would.
I'm very slow, and you think
She's
I'm
doing-
interesting, but I'm not. I'm not that interesting. Once
Then
you get to know me,
What are
I'm,
you saying about mine?
well,
If I find you interesting,
no,
are you
no, no.
telling me that?
You're fascinating because you go and do, and you have you're a very probing, go-getting.
I
You're a
am.
good interviewer.
I
and,
am. I am probing.
But people think because I'm talented, I must be an interesting person. But I'm really, I'm not. I'm dull.
No, you're not.
Very dull. I'm so dull. And somebody's supposed to go, how dull?
No, how dull is that?
I'm so dull that birds fly into me. Sheep count me.
That I like. That I like.
So, what else can I tell you?
I think that it's like somebody just. It's like cracking the nut. It's like if you aren't the nut isn't cracked, you don't find out how crazy they are inside. And I think that's my key is that I know how to crack your.
Take
I'm
it
not
easy.
going there.
Don't
I'm
go
going
there.
I don't know. But
You backed yourself into
I
that
did.
one. didn't you?
I was trying to quickly figure out how I could say that.
Trying to pedal backwards.
But I'm trying to pedal backwards to say the fact that when I'm talking with you, I always find something interesting and funny about you. So I don't think you're not funny or you're not interesting. I find that totally not true. And I don't know if that's because I know what to ask you or not. But it definitely.
Half the time I just say whatever.
Yes, and that's what's so exciting. When you get to be our age, I think, when are we going to get to say whatever
Right,
if
this
it
is the
isn't
time.
now?
That's
This
right.
is our time.
That's right.
We have the stage.
That's
Don't
right.
bug
We have
us.
the stage, and we're going to say it.
Yeah, we're going to say
like it
whatever
or
we.
not.
Yes, and if you don't like it, then there's the door.
Oh, my family's already 3/4 of them are already out that door. So
Yes, and they probably should have been gone a long time ago. Who knows? But yeah, you can't tie up things in a pretty. I was telling my family the other day about the fact that saying things that might, trying to avoid stepping on people's toes. I said, I can't see as well as I used to, so I don't have a problem. I just step on it when I need to.
That's right. That's an appropriate.
It is.
It's an appropriate metaphor.
I'm not wearing my glasses, so sorry if I step on
Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. That's good. That's a good answer.
Because if you're not doing it now, when are you going to do that? Are there any? I'm sure there are, but are there any instruments or any? I mean, I know that, and maybe playing at Patty's, was that kind of a first for a while, where you were playing it, by
It's
yourself?
been a while since I've done a solo bit
Done a
like
solo
that.
like
Yeah,
that?
and I always like that. But anytime I can play a big grand piano, I like to do that.
And so there, you're game for that.
That's my thing. That's my
Yes.
favorite thing of all. Yeah, and just to pound away on it because they can take it.
Yes.
Because a big grand can take it.
Yep.
I have kung fu fingers.
You
I
do.
have broken strings. These fingers.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, and see, they don't look like kung fu, but when you
That's
point
just-
that
that's it,
out,
That's right.
they are very strong.
That's right.
Yeah, so you
And
can
sometimes
pound.
I'll be playing sometimes and they'll just kind of go off on their own, like you said. And I go, wow, what is going on there?
Don't you love that?
It's really weird, but it's cool. you know?
Yeah. Did you have fingers that have a
Yes.
mind of their
Yes,
own?
they do. And and if you get your left hand going, you know what Leon Russell said. Remember Leon Russell?
Yes, I remember him.
He said, if you got a good left hand, the rest is gravy.
And that's what you're having right now?
And that's what, and now my left hand's going in.
And where are the biscuits?
Well, I hope that as I perform, the biscuits come out warm and fresh.
If you're going to have gravy, you got to have
Right,
biscuits,
right.
for
That's,
sure.
You're right about that.
Especially with Leon
That sounds
Russell.
like a Southern girl.
Well, I mean, I am familiar with, I don't like biscuits and gravy, but anyway, but I am not that.
That's a
I'm
strike
not
against
from
her,
the
folks.
South.
Doesn't like biscuits and gravy.
Sorry. I like gravy, but I don't necessarily like it on my biscuits. But is there any other instrument that you haven't tried that you, of course, like you keep saying, oh, there's only so much time in them.
Well, that's true enough, but yeah.
But is there something you'd like to
I
try?
was looking at. Well, now, as you said, now that we're older, and you say, well, now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
But I saw something on television. There was a harp there, and a big harp. One that you do this,
Wow.
and I thought I could probably play that because I have the fingers to pluck. I have plucky fingers.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe that's something like that. But I do, I like the reed instruments. If I had a nice saxophone, what should I get, Carmen? Alto sax or
Yeah.
something like that, and
But you
tenor
know-
sax.
there's no horns in the village. And why don't you start taking, especially,
Well,
well, you could
horns
do
now.
clarinet.
Brass is hard.
Well, if you did
Listen,
a
I sound like
sax
the
or a
redneck I
clarinet.
actually am. Brass is hard. And,
But if you
but it
had
is hard.
clarinet, since you've played on it,
Yeah, I like to read.
but you could do that with the bands that we have here, or a saxophone, because we have
Saxophone.
no
But I'd have to have some
horns.
time to learn a saxophone. You don't. That just doesn't come easily to me. Like it seems like that, but it takes a lot
Well,
of practice to get to where you can play any instrument in front of people.
well, yes, but again, what have you
I've
got
been
but
working
time?
on. I have a pedal steel guitar at home that I've been working on. You know what that is?
Like Les Paul?
No, no. Pedal steel is the one where they sit there. Sorry, and they have the strings are here, and he's got the slide bar,
Oh,
and the pedals go. Pew. You know the opening to that song, "Teach Your Children," by Crosby, Stills and Nash. It's got that famous. Help me out, Carmen. No, he can't say anything. He's doing the camera. But yeah, and that's a hard instrument, but
Yeah.
it's got a beautiful sound, and you know, and I'll work on that some too. And just
Well,
I've got laying
speaking of
around.
that, and you have that laying around the house, so you could.
If I had a good saxophone, I could really annoy my neighbor upstairs.
Ooh,
Yeah,
there you go.
he hates me already because of the guitar. And,
But look at, I mean, I don't know that you're old enough to remember Les Paul and Mary Ford.
sure,
But Les Paul had, again, a unique sound that nobody has
yeah,
nobody does that.
Well, no one can copy that. I mean,
But I mean, they're not even trying, are they?
I don't know. I would think so.
It's such
Somewhere.
a unique
Yeah,
sound.
of course, he's one of the fundamental
Oh,
guys. So I'm sure
yes.
we're still
Somebody should be doing that.
researching him. and
When
playing.
when we were practicing at the church, one night we came down there and there was a xylophone there, and Carmen could go over and play it.
Oh, I know that. I saw that thing.
Yes.
Yeah, over in that room.
Where's
over there.
Lionel Hampton when you need
Yeah,
him?
that's a good question. Lionel Hampton. That's a great sound. That all sounds good.
It
to me.
is.
And being retired is great because I don't have to worry about anything else. I can think about
Yep.
music and I'm writing more than I used to because
Oh, nice.
I've got time and here's a scoop
Yeah.
just for you. Not that it matters, but maybe it does. I'm working on putting together a set of original songs and producing them
Wonderful.
on my little mixer, and then I'll take them to a venue somewhere.
Yes. Well, do you do the music or the lyrics?
I do both.
Do all the above.
Yeah, I just write songs.
Well, we were talking to Jeff Sinclair earlier, and he has written a lot of poems. And I said, "Have you ever thought of putting them?" Because he said, "I can do lyrics, I just can't do the music." And I said, "Have you ever thought of putting those poems to music?" So maybe you need to do a little collaboration here. I could do the lyrics, I think, because I like to write. I like poetry that doesn't rhyme. It just comes from my heart, so it's heartfelt. But I don't know how to do the music part of it. So, and that would be fun, is to collaborate. When you think about the collaboration of certain, singers and composers, that how they had to work together. One had the words, the lyrics, and the other one had to make it sound, and how they could
Right,
agree on.
Right.
By the time they had that finished product, saying, "Yeah, you got what I."
Rodgers
and you'd
and
have
Hammerstein.
you'd have to be on
Yeah.
that same wavelength to say you're
Yeah.
getting my drift.
Elton John and Bernie Taupin.
Mm-hmm.
He freely admits without Bernie Taupin, he would have never gotten where he is. So they just had the right.
Yes.
What's the word? Compatibility or.
And you have to be on a
simpatico.
There you go, simpatico. If you're on the
Simpatico.
same wavelength, where what you're trying to get across words, and then you hear the music and it fits exactly, that I think is not as easily found as some people make it think.
I don't find the process easy because it's not, for me, it's not an easy process. I mean, I'm not, I'm not James Taylor or anything. I just like to write songs that come to me, but it's hard because you get an idea for one and you get a nice riff out of it to start and you go, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
Then the rest of it is nothing but work.
Oh, so were there, huh? Was there any special artists that influenced you, when you were real young?
Of course, Elvis first.
Oh, yay.
When I was when I was 7, 8, and 9, and he was on the radio, and you knew something was happening. My ear heard that.
Wow.
And the other part of me also could feel my parents' displeasure,
Yes.
you know,
That
about
helps.
this Elvis. I don't think I like that, you know.
Yeah.
But to me, it was great. And then, you know, I went through the round of all those guy singers right before the Beatles. You know, they had the Frankie Avalon and
yeah.
the Frankie Z and the
Yeah.
Johnny B and Johnny Tillotson and all those
All
and
those
all that
guys.
Philadelphia sound and all that kind of music.
Mhm.
And that was good. And then the Beatles did the big trick. That's when it was time to get your guitar and you know, and I would have been 13, you know,
Yeah.
something like that. So that
Very
was formative.
impressionable.
Yeah. So that hit me dead on. I mean, I'm sure I hit puberty
Yeah.
the same week
Yeah.
that I heard yeah 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 for the
Yeah.
first time.
And the monkeys and
Well, please.
I knew that would get you.
Please, monkey.
If you're
business.
the British invasion can only go so far.
Well, it's not because, you know, people love to do that monkeys Beatles thing, but it's like comparing Dr. Seuss to Tolstoy. Okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Not to knock Dr. Seuss,
But see,
and,
when you're talking about Elvis, of course, that
Yeah.
definitely changed the world. But
he
you know,
been a hound dog.
and I'm sure you never ironed anything, but those were the days when people ironed, and I would
Are
dance
you
as
kidding?
I ironed.
Are you kidding? My mother wouldn't iron my shirts. She wanted
Teach you.
she made me iron my own shirts.
Well,
Can
then you
believe
knew.
that?
That's a good lesson
Cruel
for you.
woman.
Cruel. I would be ironing and dancing with Great Balls of Fire and the Elvis stuff because that was just, you had the radio on nonstop.
Well, I just had that tennis racket and was
Oh,
yeah in front
I
of that
still have a
mirror.
picture of that. That is something that will be burned
And
into
so
my head.
that's when I got my first guitar
Mhm.
at that age, and it was, you know, a little acoustic guitar that cost $15 from the pawn shop,
Oh,
and I loved it, I'm sure. And then that was it. The rest is history.
yeah. So you just constantly bought albums. Did you go to a lot of concerts when you were a kid, or could you afford to? Or
No, it wasn't. When I was a kid, it kind of wasn't a thing yet. Started going when in the '60s and '70s,
Mhm.
when going to concerts became something.
Right.
And there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
But not before that. It was all whatever you saw on television or heard on the radio.
Mhm. Yeah. I remember going to a concert at Pacific Amphitheater over here to hear Julio Iglesias, and of course they were sold out.
All the girls I've loved
Yes.
before.
And the seats were sold out, so I'm in the grassy section up in there. But the women,
I don't. That's such a setup for a
no,
joke.
no. The women screamed so loud, Julio, Julio, and I just said, "Will you please be quiet?" And when that happened, I thought, I'm so glad I never went to an Elvis concert because I probably would have never heard a word he sang because they cried and screamed and yelled. You couldn't even hear them. And that to me is what makes concert. But for me now, of course, I would just take it away
Yeah,
because
well,
I want to hear the performer.
That's what killed the Beatles touring live.
Yeah,
They said we can't hear anything. We're done.
yeah. And
Too much crazy stupid
fainting.
stuff. Yeah,
They're fainting and carrying on.
You know, and all they want to do is play good music.
Yes, yeah,
And get listened to. So
and sell records.
And that's what's great important about to me now being retired and being able to play a lot.
Mhm.
I can be listened to.
Yes,
You know, and so far so good.
yeah. And as long as you
I can't lead you out any better than that.
yes, you have to just continue doing what you're doing. Continue your entertainmentship because you are an entertainer.
Entertainmentship.
That's it.
I'm not going. I get an apprentice to work for me and for an
That's
entertainmentship.
Because of the fact you have what it takes, and you don't even know you have it. Just like that left hand that doesn't know what it's doing.
That's right. Go, baby. That's what I
So-
say to it.
As much as I enjoyed our first interview when we were talking, what I thought was not serious, but this one was totally not serious. And
And yet, underneath, you've learned many things.
I have learned many things, as I always do with you. And so I think what I have to do is interview you more often because it's the only time I get you sitting down in one spot where you're not moving around so I can actually ask you questions. So I'm looking
It's hard
forward
to hit a moving target.
I'm looking forward to our next gig
I always
together,
enjoy
which we
talking
talked
with
to.
you, my friend. Thank you.
It has been a blessing, and again, thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
Craig.
much.
Chat box. And we are continuing our musician series. Today, I am fortunate to have another musician from the village, Ron Gagnon, who is a drummer with
Correct.
the Rock of Ages band.
Thank you.
So, welcome, Ron.
Thank you very much.
I know a little bit about you, that you are from the East Coast, I believe,
That's right, Connecticut.
Connecticut, and
Yeah.
you were there all through high school, I think,
High
right?
school, and I still resided there and during the summers when I went to college in Tampa, Florida. And then after that, I spent 5 years in the military as
Mhm.
a pilot in the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
15 years.
Yeah.
And then we moved down to Orange County here, actually Dana Point, for 25 years. And then we finally moved here about 7 years ago.
Yeah. When you say we,
My wife and I of 54 years.
yes,
I've got to get that right.
that's the part that is to me. You guys met in high school, did you not?
No, it was a summer vacation.
Oh,
I was
okay.
back in Connecticut,
Okay.
West Hartford,
Uh-huh.
and there were several girls sitting across from us.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked over to ask the one girl that I thought was a good dancer.
Yeah.
And just as I did, somebody else had asked her.
Oh.
So I asked my future wife.
Oh.
And she danced very well, and we still
Yes.
enjoy dancing.
Well, that's wonderful.
But I had to call her 3 times before she said yes on the date.
Good for her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
hard
good
to
for
get.
me to keep trying.
Yes, hard to get work sometimes.
Well,
So
yeah.
she was all ready to go west as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it. That was a good thing because it was both our
Mhm.
decisions.
Now, you did say that you really started playing the drums kind of by accident or something when you were in
Elementary school.
elementary school. They said play an instrument or something.
You had to select an instrument to at least fulfill the obligation of elementary school, even. So I selected drums, and that's where I got started.
Ah,
And then by the time I was 15, I was playing and getting paid for it.
so where did you get your gigs when you were 15?
Bars.
Really?
And the worst part is, I was a teenager and I was playing behind strippers.
It
It was terrible.
I can
'Cause
imagine.
you have to get that left hand beat right.
Yes, and you'd have to wear blinders so that you were paying attention.
No, I
Oh,
didn't have to do that.
no. But
But
you didn't have, I mean, I find that interesting because, back then, did they not have, would they check your IDs to make sure you were old enough to be in there playing, or didn't any of that happen?
none of that happened. And the nice part of it is that there was some really rough bars that we played in as teenagers,
Mm,
but they always had good security, and we never got hassled, not once, from any of the clientele.
wonderful.
And of course, the girls didn't really strip.
Right.
It was like a bikini bathing suit, if that's what you want
Right,
to call it.
right. Were the guys that were you in the band with, they were your age too then, or were they older?
Pretty much. A good friend of mine was my age, and then the other ones were anywhere 3 to 5 years older. They've
Okay.
been doing it for a while.
Now, as it happens, as you get older, you get into this musician network. But at that time, when you're that young, did you just pretty much stay with the group you were with, or did you have a lot of different musicians coming in and out of your band, or didn't you have that so much?
Right. It was usually the leader that would hear about you and then contact you.
Oh,
So at one time, I may have been working with a couple bands,
willing to play or wanting to play. Did you play certain, was it rock and roll, or what did you play at that time?
strictly rock and roll, but within that, sometimes we would do weddings where they wanted you to do a polka or a waltz and
Oh.
things like that. So we had to learn a little different songs, but basically they wanted rock and roll. Back then, it wasn't that sophisticated. And we're
No.
talking about, the early 60s, that type of thing.
hmm Did you have a certain band or group that you listened to, that you picked up tips from, that you followed as far as bands or singers that you
Yeah.
had were your favorite?
And the good part about it is some of those people are still being followed. Jerry Lee Lewis,
Oh, yes.
those types of people.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley,
hmm
those were the ones that were followed, and we even play some of their songs today.
Yeah, Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry for sure.
Yeah,
In
yep.
fact, I've got a gig today starting at I have to leave about 4:15.
Yeah.
The latest.
So are you going to play some Chuck Berry tonight?
We always do a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a documentary on him the other day. He was a very interesting individual.
He
I
was.
love, I've done that a couple occasions where I've also saw a documentary on Buddy Holly. And, I don't hear many bands in here playing Buddy Holly, and he was another unique
Yes.
artist. 18 months is all he was around before he died. And every one of the songs that he had was so unique, but I don't hear anybody playing any of those. And that's a sad thing because everybody would know if you played them, it's a Buddy Holly song, just like they
Exactly.
know with a Chuck Berry. That, you think about how many, we could sit here and just go off about how many unique singers Bo Diddley and Richie Valens and all of those people
right.
that there was only one. And, you know, we are only one. There's only one of us. But I don't know if we'll leave a mark like they did.
No,
but,
not at
but
all.
it'd be fun. So when you came to, you said you lived in, and I know that you were more of a business major and that you got into real estate. And so that's kind of what you were doing when you were here in California. And then when you moved into the village, how did you get involved with finding a band and a place to, or weren't you looking for it? Did you stumble upon a place to play your drums, or how did you get into it here?
Oh, here in Laguna
Yeah,
Woods?
yeah.
Actually, it was an outside group that I heard about playing at a couple bars, and they played blues. If you're
Okay.
playing blues, it's pretty straightforward, particularly for a rhythm section, which is the bass player and the drummer.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically very easy to go along with. Now, from there, you start meeting other people.
Right.
And along with that we came in here about 7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I was very active in this Saturday jam that they used to have as
Mhm.
far as blues goes.
Yeah.
And that's where you get to mix with different people.
Mhm.
It also has to do with personalities.
Yes.
Because you can have the best player, but if he's not the right personality,
Mhm.
it doesn't work.
No,
They
and
can-
that grind in that band. You know, it's
Exactly.
interesting though. You talk first of all, um, we don't have a lot of rhythm and blues in here, or
Right.
blues. It's a big gap. We don't have jazz in here, which is another big gap.
Right.
We have a lot of rock and roll in here because
That's right.
most of them are from that era. But the fact that that is one place that really could stand to fill in the gap. But also, when you talked about jamming, on Tuesday when I came to Woods Combo to hear them play, Sherry Showalter from Band X we were sitting and talking, and she'd run into, when they were at Fedora's playing, run into a couple musicians from out of town that were visiting, and then they'd exchanged numbers, and so we started talking about the fact that wouldn't it be something special, because there are so many musicians in the village, that if there was a place and once a month on a Sunday night you had jam sessions where any musician, inside or outside, that wanted to be a part of that jam session knew that it was going to be there to
Sure.
have a contact number. Because I've been to some of those. I'm not a musician, but I've been to where um, it was a Sunday night and there was it was at the cannery, and
Uh-huh.
Derek Bordeaux was there, and there was a lot. He's wonderful. He's a Marvin Gaye, if you will. But there were a lot of musicians that are off on Sundays, and they knew he was there, so they trickle in,
Sure.
and then they'd all sing or pick up an instrument and play.
Yeah.
And it was the wildest, most wonderful, because you get the creme de la creme.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that she was interested also in starting in here, was just getting enough people together, finding out where they could do this,
Right.
because it would be, even if it was someplace like Fedora's, if they just would open it up, because people are going to want to come hear the jam session. So it
Right.
wouldn't be just the musicians, but there's, again, other places. So was it tough for you to let go of the blues and then just do rock and roll?
Oh yeah, well I started off with rock and roll.
And then you went to blues, and then you went back to rock and
Whatever
roll.
the audience was wanting, that's exactly what we would do.
Mhm.
On the business side of things, give the people what they want, and the money comes one way, and the service, which is selecting the songs that they want. But when I was coming up as a teenager, it was rock and roll,
Mhm.
and that was 99% of it, because that gets you out of your seat and you want to dance.
Yes.
And that's what we get in here
Yes.
when we're doing our gigs.
Yeah.
Do you know this song or that song? Can you do this?
Yes.
And that's exactly what we try to do to our limits.
Mhm.
And because sometimes we got a call this past week about adding a keyboard player to a gig we've got coming up in about a month.
Mhm.
And we don't have a professional keyboard player.
Mhm.
He can do a little bit.
Mhm.
So that's the complexity of it.
Yeah. But again, there you have musicians in the area that you can draw from.
Right.
For special gigs and so on. But I think when you said if you give the people what they ask for or what they want,
That's right.
that's a key, because it may not be necessarily what you would prefer to play, but if you know that that's what they're going to want and what they're going to dance to, then you change and play what they need
Sure.
to play, and then they'll hire you back, so the money will come.
Right.
And one of the things that I wanted to mention about, and I don't know who does this, if it's you or if it's all the band members of Rock of Ages, is, and I miss it immensely, as I've told you, that you used to once a month, first Saturday of the month, you'd play it at Clubhouse 5, huge dance floor, and I
Right.
like to move when I dance.
Right.
And your playlist was such that there was not a time where I sat down and sat out 3 songs. It was nonstop because the beat was always there.
Thank you.
And then I told your wife, Marilyn, when I left that night, I said to her, I said, you tell your husband, thank you so much, because the dance floor was never empty.
Hmm.
And I don't care if they were line dancing or just people out individually, but the dance floor was packed all the time dancing, and that's so good for us.
Exactly.
Any age, but especially at our age, to
Exactly.
get up and make sure that all the limbs are moving and the blood is flowing and all that. But whoever does that, and it's a mixture of of some of the oldies, like the Chuck Berrys and so on. And I can't tell you how much I laughed, not laugh because I was so happy I was out dancing. Because who plays Wooly Bully but you guys? Sam, the Sham, and the Pharaohs, and I'm like,
Good for
you
you.
gotta be kidding!
God,
They're
you-
playing Wooly Bully.
You remember that?
Oh my
And
heavens,
that's
yes.
what we strive for, because we all have that song in the back of our mind. Oh, that's what happened in 8th grade or 9th grade.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember meeting this person or that person.
It
And that's what
brings
we
you
strive for.
right back to those memories. It
Exactly.
really taps the memories. The other thing that I remember when I went to a TGIF and the Sophisticats were there and they played B.B. King, The Thrill Is Gone.
Oh yeah.
And now that's a very slow song, and I don't dance with anyone, but I still dance because that's a number you cannot sit still.
Right.
And then I remember not much longer after that, I asked Lyle, I said, can you do that one? And before you know it, you guys were doing that because it is absolutely fabulous, that B.B. King. So throwing in a few of those real bluesies, is
Exactly.
important.
Yeah.
Just the same way with, I know when we were playing one time at a place that they were playing something by Garth Brooks, I think, and the people when they heard it, because they were country people, country western fans, that it's important again when you're talking about your audience, is that to mix up so that you have a little bit line dance, you have a little bit of rock and roll, you have a little bit of country, you have a little bit of class, the old standards,
Right.
because somebody is going to have a memory.
That's right.
Somebody is going to get out there and remember what they were doing at that time.
Yeah.
So always being cognizant of your audience is so kind of you, and it's lucrative in the end because
Exactly.
it'll pay off.
We give the people what they want,
Mhm.
and that's exactly what happened with line dancing, and then
Okay.
also slow dancing.
Mhm.
Very few people got up and slow dance compared to the fast one, and then the line dancing. Just
Mhm.
about everybody fills that floor.
Yes.
So we're increasing the number of line dances that we do to suit the audience that we
Mhm.
have.
Mhm.
Now, if only a few people dance to the slow ones, it's nice, but it doesn't really get them up, and they don't really remember
Right.
that.
You
as a
can't
great
do
song.
more than one of those. But the line dancing, that was
Yes.
another thing, is that for single women, which, the majority in here are single women,
Yeah.
and they don't feel bad about the fact that they can go out and dance. Of course, I don't care. I dance by myself no matter what. But the line dancing, it's
Right.
like you have a license that it's okay to dance by yourself in a line dance because you're dancing with others.
Exactly.
And it is quite popular. It is
Yeah.
quite popular. So I like that. But again, it just keeps the pick out
Elementary
something.
school, actually. Yeah.
So how old are you? You're quite young. So you
Back then,
yeah, in
that
elementary
was
you're
about
kind of
let's say
young.
9 or 10 years old.
Yeah. So you pick a drum, and that's not the easiest one to practice at home. So did you get a drum set to practice at home, or did you only play when you were at school? How did you?
Just at school, basically.
Okay.
And then what you get is a practice pad, which is all you hear is tap, tap, tap.
Oh.
Nowadays, I have a full electronic set, so you don't hear anything unless you're in the room with me, and all you hear is the tap, tap, tap. But I'm listening to the music, and I'm reading every song that I do.
Mhm.
I have a complete lyric sheet
Okay.
that tells me exactly what to do on that song. Because when you have over 100 songs, a lot more than 100
Yes.
songs, if you want to be a part of the rhythm section on rock and roll,
Mhm.
you've got to play that rhythm section correctly. And
Okay.
the bass player will fill in with you.
Right.
But that bass drum and that snare really sets the tempo.
Yes.
And it's not just regular 4 beats per bar
Right.
with the bass drum and the 2 and the 4 on the left.
Yeah.
It's quite complicated, and that's what I have to do is capture that rhythm for that particular song.
Mm.
Now, as to when I really felt as though I wanted to get into it, it's when I had rock and roll come along.
Yes.
And that's why it took off so well. You didn't have to be the best musician.
Right.
What you had to do is get that feeling.
Yes.
And when you get that feeling and you're
Mhm.
cooking,
Yeah.
and then when you get a professional band like I'm playing with now,
Mhm.
and we get into the middle of these songs, man, we all come
Oh,
alive
wow.
because you can just feel the momentum
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
Now, even if you play it for a long time, you still have to look the right way on stage.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'll look over at some of the guys and they're concentrating on their instrument.
Yeah.
And I encourage them to smile or look up,
Yes.
get together, and look like we're
Yes.
really cooking.
Yeah.
Because if you've got an audience of 100 people and there's 5 of us, at least 10 or 20 of those people are looking directly at me
Yes.
if they can actually see me in the back.
Right. But the point, you have to look like you're playing off each other,
That's right.
the band members. So, did you listen to any particular drummer? I remember Bill Hamburger had said that his was Buddy Rich. I mean, he just emulated him, and
Buddy
that's
Rich or Gene Krupa.
I was going to ask you that because I said something about Gene Krupa to Bill, and Bill said, no, it was Buddy Rich. But I thought Gene Krupa,
Yeah.
because again, he was back, and he was more blues, was he not?
No, he can play. Both of those guys did solo instrument, played that drums
Oh,
as a solo instrument,
yeah.
and they took leave with whatever they were doing and doing a damn good job of it. But when you get into a group, the drummer has got to hold down the rhythm section of it.
Yes.
You can do a lot of fancy stuff, but those guys are way above what I was able to do.
Mhm.
But you see them on a professional level, but very few drummers can you name in the last 20 or 30
Yes.
years.
That stand out
Yeah.
like they did.
That's right. Because what you want to do as a drummer is capture that rhythm.
Hmm.
And each song has a basic rhythm, and
Mhm.
you've got to be able to capture that with the bass player.
Yeah.
Because that sets the whole precedent for the rhythm and the feel of that song.
Yeah.
Like when I'll start out some of the songs as the drumming part, people say, "Oh, I know what that is,"
Isn't that
because
wonderful?
it's a signature with either
Yes.
the cowbell or the bass and the snare, and it kind of
Oh,
identifies that song. Oh, I know what's coming
yeah.
up next.
Yeah, and that's important to
Yeah.
get that, just knowing what's coming. Knowing
Yeah.
what's coming. It's an exciting thing.
It's like when you mentioned dancing. It's
Hmm.
like when you get out there and you're dancing, and all of a sudden, my God, this is so good. I'm just, cooking out here. That's the difference. The same thing happens with a good musician. Now,
Yes.
sometimes they got to be straight faced or are
Mhm.
straight faced.
Mhm.
With me, I just kind of light up when I get into that.
Yes.
And it's not every song, but when you do, everybody's
Yeah.
cooking in that band. That's the key.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed in my interaction with the different bands here in the village is that if the band is having a good time, they don't need to worry about the audience because they'll have a good time because they know the band is. So it's
Right.
really the band having a good time before the audience. We know the audience is out there dancing, but is the band tense or is the band having a good time, laughing, playing off each other, that kind of thing? That I notice a difference when I go to different venues, and I'll watch, and the audience is enjoying it. But when I watch those band members, they are just laughing and they're doing faces at each other and everything because they're having a good time whether anybody's there or not.
Right. A lot of musicians can't get into that.
Ah.
And they can be in the middle of playing music in
Mhm.
a solo part, but they don't display to the audience the enjoyment that they're
Mhm.
sharing with their instrument like that.
Yeah.
That's why I constantly talk to the guys about that.
Uh-huh.
And when I'm up there, I'll try and smile a lot and look
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
Now I'm in the back as a
Yes.
drummer, so you don't see me
So
very
it's
often.
hard for you to get there unless you bang a certain beat, and then they'd say, "What are you doing?" Then he'd say, "Smile."
Yeah, that's right. Especially if everybody gets along real
Mhm.
well,
Yes.
and they were cooking, and that's really
Mhm.
good.
And what you mentioned earlier too about being successful in your band, in your group of musicians, is that you have to have personalities that really gel. Because if you have one irritating, that can just stop anybody from enjoying the gig, enjoying the rehearsals. You just don't. It's not fun anymore.
Absolutely
And
right.
then when it's not fun anymore, because I
Absolutely.
admire, I mean, I find it, I don't play an instrument. I love music, but I don't play an instrument. So seeing how many hours people dedicate in rehearsal and in gigs and the setting up and the taking down
That's
and
right.
all of that. That's dedication and commitment. And if they didn't enjoy those hours they're playing, there's no way they would set it up and take it down like they do, because they're not getting paid buku bucks.
That's right.
You know, you're doing it for the sake of music,
Exactly.
and I applaud you
Exactly.
for that, because
Yeah.
that's a lot.
It's special. And the analogy of when you get dance number, you can't stop. You've got to get up and move your feet.
Yep.
That's the exact same thing that happens to the musician, as long as we're all cooking,
Yes.
you know, and we're all respectful of the other person's
Mhm.
parts.
I like that word too, cooking.
Oh, geez.
When
yeah.
we're all cooking,
Oh, yeah.
it's start. You can smell the steam is coming up. Smells darn good.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds
it's
darn good.
wonderful.
Well, Ron, I'm so glad we finally got together. It's been
Good.
time.
My pleasure.
We've been waiting to do this for a while, but
Yeah.
I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
And I found out a few more interesting things about you. And next time I see you, if it's tonight or whenever it is, I'm going to be looking back there to see if you're cooking.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll try and keep an open mind about that, because that's so important when you
It
look
is.
up there.
It is. It's important that, and the fact that you keep urging the guys with you to say, let's have fun, guys. Let's
Yeah.
have fun, because everybody does well too then.
Thank you very much for inviting me over.
Oh,
Enjoyed talking to
It was
you.
great.